Hello everyone. I'm going to be doing a live today with a beautiful sister called Zefirah. Hello Anais, thank you for joining. Zefirah is going to be sharing at the Heart of the Rose Summit next Sunday with her partner Maxwell. And they're going to be, thanks babes, they're going to be sharing all about temples and the importance of building these new earth temples that are in harmony with all of life. I'm just going to send here. Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. You'll be joining soon. I'm really excited about this one. It feels like it's going to be a very core piece of what we're going to be doing with the summit, and also this global Rose platform that me and Bianca are going to be birthing through the summit. And also really important that Zefirah is going to be speaking with her partner, because a lot of these temples are being called birthed by couples at this time, interestingly. The balance between the masculine and feminine. Oh, wait one more minute. Here. Yay!
Hi.
Thanks for joining. Thank you,
Of
thank you, thank you.
course.
Thank you, my love. It's still new to me, the live thing too. This is my second one. So, so I'm glad we got on there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, my love. So I was just introducing and saying how beautiful it is that you and your partner will be sharing next Sunday on the summit, and you'll be sharing all things temples and the birth of these kind of new earth temples, and how important that seems to be, that couples are also being called to do this work, this kind of piece around sacred union.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think I'm going to invite you to share a little bit about maybe I'll give a bit of context to people who may not know in terms of the summit as well, is that
Okay,
I'm
perfect.
honouring Carly as well for putting us in touch. Thank you, Carly, who hopefully will be watching this. We love Carly. So Heart of the Rose, this year the guidance was to take it online after running the festival for nearly the last 5 years in England. The guidance was, for those that maybe haven't heard, to take it online, and that it was time to connect with the global Rose family, the global Rose sisterhood community. And not only that, but it was time to connect these Rose communities around the world, like all these, as Magdalene Rose consciousness is awakening on our planet, it feels like there's all these pockets of sisters and brothers that are awakening to this frequency of divine love and supporting and wanting to be in service to anchoring this even more. And the kind of vision and intention and guidance for this summit was that it was somehow meant to connect these communities. And not only that, this really important piece around the temples, which is why I'm so excited to speak to you tonight, that I noticed in myself over the years and my own journey, that it's I mean, I won't go into it, but just from a young age being shown that the reason my soul incarnated into this body on this land where Heart of the Rose is was to resurrect this temple that used to exist here. And that many other people I met in the last few years are being drawn to these very specific places on the planet to start rebuilding these temples, in preparation for this kind of new earth, for this new earth that we're birthing and co-creating together. And so lovely Carly put us in touch around that, and our kind of similar shared visions in some way. And I'm so intrigued myself to hear how did Azura, because maybe you would like to share a little bit more what Azura is and how that came through you and your partner.
Yeah, I would love to share that. And also, it's so good to meet you in person. We've been sharing voice notes, but just seeing you and feeling you, and also receiving, the information of where the festival came from and the land that you're stewarding. And it just lit up so many things inside of my body. And just the truth of when you were speaking, I was just feeling this illuminated garden, that we're here and this garden of Gaia, for us to be stewards of this garden instead of everything that society, so much of society is doing through those imbalances of masculine, feminine, and all the things that's on the planet. And the way that's impacting nature, the way that's impacting us, the way that's literally impacting humanity's ability to procreate, right? So, like, when we align back into the garden and come back into the garden, it's and create these sanctuaries for people to remember that frequency of heaven on earth, because that's our blueprint. That's who we truly are. The more that we cleanse the layers and peel back the layers, it's like, oh, this is what it feels like to be human. It's so simple and beautiful and full of love. And so I just really honor what you're creating over there, and the sanctuary and the garden and the community. And it's so important. It's essential at these times to help us remember, and also to help us ground and anchor what it means to be stewards of the garden and to resurrect the garden through architecture, through community, through birth centers, through however it's manifesting. So thank you for stewarding.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I thought when you said heaven on earth, I feel like that's so, just as you said that, it reminded me how like feels like how important that's going to be in the next few years as we go through so many changes, that there are these pockets that are holding the frequency of heaven on earth and like anchoring that for the
Yeah.
community.
Yeah.
Thank
And that, yeah. And to answer your question, so in 2012, my beloved and I, Maxwell, we met when we were 21 years old. And when we came together, I won't go into too much personal details, but when we came together, there was this spark that felt like, the Ark of the Covenant. It felt like this Ark of the Covenant type of energy happened. And it felt like it was kind of lifetimes in the making. And when we had that spark of union coming, it felt, we only knew each other for about 2 weeks when this occurred, but it was a really big awakening when we came together. And it was, we didn't even know, I didn't know about the Rose lineage. I didn't know about Mary Magdalene or Yeshua. I didn't grow up religious, but it was like the architecture of creation was like revealing itself through our bodies. And so we experienced a really big awakening together. Um, and in that, what we were shown, like on this macrocosmic level, like we could kind of see like everything that humanity and the earth is going to be experiencing. And we saw these resurrected gardens and sanctuaries and schools. And, so many of us get that blueprint. And it's like, oh, this is why we're here. And oftentimes we see it on that macrocosmic level. We kind of get that bird's eye view. And then it's like, okay, now what are the steps towards physically bringing it into this earth plane that has a lot of density, like our bodies, our emotions, our DNA has a lot of wounding. And so for me and my beloved, when we had that union experience, that spark of, it reminds me of the Ark of the Covenant. It feels like when the two come together, it creates literally beings. Like it opens the womb gate, it opens the stargate for souls to come into this earth. It's so incredibly powerful, and people have forgotten, because of forced marriages, rape, all of these things that's happened to the womb, that's happened to the seed. And so when we heal that in union and bring that Ark of the Covenant, that spark of life, back to its original template, then we're able to birth not just people, but the village, the dream, like dream a new dream for humanity. And so that was, me and Maxwell's process was like coming together in that union, and coming from our backgrounds of all of the trauma or maybe abuse that we may have experienced, minor to bigger things, and peeling back those layers for each other and healing our DNA and coming back. And we're still going there, you know, it's a continuous journey, but just stepping on that path of what does it mean to have our DNA fully actualized, like opened up, you know, because when trauma happens, the DNA kinks and compresses literally. So it's like, I think in our union experience, it was like uncoiling and unraveling and opening our our meridians and our circuitry. And then from that space, when we had our union experience, we saw this dome that we built. We saw this property. We saw all of our future projects. Like we just saw a full bird's eye view of everything we're supposed to create. This first project took a lot longer than we thought it was going to, because when you have those really macrocosmic experiences, it's like, oh, this can manifest really quickly. And it was like, no, this is going to initiate you. So our first project of this property and retreat center, and I'll just share this with people that aren't familiar. So me and my beloved, we bought about 30 acres in the Appalachian Mountains in the US. Really special mountains, so full of crystals and springs, and it's just so incredible here. But we started building a retreat center, and so we built like a sanctuary, um, dome structured temple space for having community events, and then we also started building a couple of little structures down by the creek and in so in that right now, actually the property is listed for sale, and there's several people that are interested, and it's been a really deep process of resurrecting this kind of new earth architecture and template, and then being asked to let it go. And it's actually been a really beautiful process because it has connected us to that space of, you know, let thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And like, this is our offering to keep the momentum going, to keep building. And we're actually moving to Europe. We don't know where yet. But yeah, that's kind of how so it came into being from seeing it on this macrocosmic viewpoint. And then it took from that point to finish about like 8 years. And there was a lot of personal initiations during that time. But we knew, because we had that vision that was so undeniable from God of what we're supposed to create, that we walked with the absolute knowing that we were meant to build this. We didn't know how we were going to do it financially, how it was going to manifest. We had no idea, but we kept walking with that knowing that this is meant to be resurrected. And then we found the land, the investment came, money started coming into our reality, like things started, momentum started picking up for us to be able to do it. But then the other thing with this project is that Mother, Father, God really wanted us to physically work on a lot of it ourselves, like blood, sweat, and tears. And so that process was very grounding for us to understand what it physically takes to build these structures. And it was very humbling for us and very grounding. So that macrocosmic viewpoint kind of all came into the seed of what this space is and kind of grounded it into the earth and planted roots here. And now whoever gets it will be, we're like passing the flame for them to continue building these new earth architectures. And I'll just say one more thing to wrap it up. All the people that have come that are interested in purchasing all have the vision of the new earth. Nobody has reached out to us that doesn't have that vision. So that's been really interesting, like witnessing that process as well, because thousands, like, I don't even know how many people have seen it because we went public with it. And so, yeah, that's where we're at right now with it.
Thank you for sharing the light. I want to just bow in reverence for anyone watching that hasn't seen your temple. Please go on Zefirah's Instagram, and it is a hot, like I remember just seeing it first time being like, this exists in this realm. Like it just felt like I could feel the frequency through it. I was like, this is like my aim, this is an aim for like what a temple should feel like. And we haven't been there in person, it just like you can sense it. It's just profound, like what you guys have created, and the deepest admiration and respect journey that can take to let that go as well. So just really bowing in reverence for what you guys have done together and what you've managed to bring through. I'm really I don't know how long we have, but I'm also kind of curious the body and that, because you both bringing in so much light and transmission to bring that into physical form. Like we know the body is the temple, the temple. I know for myself, the body has been the deepest journey for me this lifetime. I had so many infinite health issues, and it feels like some of us have chosen that in some way, because it's like clearing this density and anchoring this new level of light that's kind of some souls have chosen to do through trauma, through illness. And there's something linked to that and the temples we're building as well. It's like we've got to clear the body as we rebuild temples as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. I went through a 9-year spinal injury experience, along with several other things with my body, and my
Mm,
body as well has been through a lot. And I think that, you know, the body initiations and the spinal injury was really my master teacher. You know,
mm,
it really brought me on that path of really understanding the feminine form, understanding what these bodies are capable of, and
mm,
also what these bodies are capable of in relation to, um, uh, yeah, just what we can build. Sorry, my phone's going off messages. Um, and yeah, so the process of going into the injury of the spine for me was really this fine dialing and coming home to this body of Sophia that is, I call the Great Mother Sophia. You know, that she's the one of many names. But that's what she asked me to call her for these times when I met her and kind of came to her in an experience and healing my body as a part of the living architecture of Sophia, you know, a part of the living architecture of the earth,
mm,
of
mm,
the heavens,
mm,
and reclaiming my spine, reclaiming my womb, reclaiming
mm,
my DNA, like
mm,
as a part of this the living spirit, the living holy architecture
mm,
was what I think a big part of how we were able to physically bring it into manifestation, you know, was through that really deep, because as within, so without, you know, it's like the work we do within then manifest around us. And but the years of initiation as well, because we're coming from so many generations, you know, of, if we think about it as the DNA or our human genome as divine angelic architecture of Gaia and
mm,
in the
mm,
heavens, then that architecture has been, you know, rated, and all of these things has happened to that body of the living DNA. And all of the ways that also our ancestry has purposely suppressed themselves, like, oh, I don't want to be seen, you know, I don't want to, you know, be too loud, or I don't want to be too bright, like that's not safe. So all of the layers that we're pushing on the edges of our own DNA through these body initiations and bringing our light into it and uncoiling those, you know, and
mm,
breaks and thresholds are really important, you know, for our nervous system. And so there's a timing to it as well, and not
mm,
forcing things into being, but living in right relation with our bodies and God and the
mm,
garden of Gaia. And, but yeah, through that process of body initiation, restoring that, reclaiming that, I think allows that natural, you know, light of our soul. Like the more that our body makes room for the living spirit of our soul to come into our being, the more that we become lucid here to physically create these structures or create these
mm,
systems, these new systems. And
mm,
it's so wild though sometimes, because it's almost like it's coming from nothing. You know, these visions, it's like, oh, this is so new, it's so ancient, but it's so
mm,
new as well. And
mm,
holding the vision and trusting in the vision, and trusting, that's been my mantra, like, to just trust in God, like Mother, Father, God, and to trust in
mm.
myself to know God. And yeah, and just walk in service in that way for the garden. So yeah, it's all interconnected.
Thank you for sharing. That's so big, and yeah, trust. I feel that. I feel that, and I also know it's a lifelong lesson for me personally. It's natural surrender. Um, but slowly but surely. And talking about trust, you getting shown this vision now to kind of move to Europe or to start bringing these temples or a temple to Europe. What does that look like for you guys? Is there a space that you're feeling called to, a country that you're feeling called to? I know you have a strong connection to the bees as well, like Crete, maybe another
Yeah.
kind of places.
Yeah,
Um,
thanks for asking. I mean, we definitely feel called to the UK. We also feel called to the south of France, and we feel called to Greece. We feel
mm,
called to Switzerland. I have a very deep connection to certain areas in Turkey that feels
mm,
connected to the honeybee mysteries and the
mm,
Melissae
mm,
mysteries.
mm,
But we're listening right now. Our lessons on just taking one day at a time and being really present with what's right here, right now. And um, but I have been having dreams of our daughter, and our daughter's
mm,
been, I've dreamed of her ever since we met in that experience in
mm,
2012 that we had. I I just have felt her like as my North Star, like all
mm,
these years, and that she's been
mm,
kind of guiding me. She's like my beloved beyond the veil that's been guiding me on
mm,
this feminine healing journey of my vessel. She's the
mm.
first one that ever told me about Mary Magdalene or like the Rose
Wow.
Line, the womb mysteries. Like my connection to her has
Mm,
been, yeah, my greatest guide basically on my journey. So
mm,
I've been having, that's part of what allowed me to let go of this land and this property, is I
mm,
started having dreams of her, and she was like, Mama, this is not my timeline. Like, this was a
mm,
nest egg that you all created to launch you
mm,
into your greater timeline. And so
mm,
I started having dreams of her, and she's the one that, she came to me in a dream the other day actually, and it was interesting because she this feels connected to share this in relevance to the Rose Line Festival. So in the dream, she showed me this sandbox, and she was like, "Okay, Mama, now show me all of the artifacts that you found of Mary Magdalene so far." And I like brought them up, and and then she's like, "Okay, put it in the sandbox." And then she had me bury, or she buried some, and then she left some revealed. And then she was like, um, Mama, her name meant fiery one, and my name means fiery one, and your
mm,
name means fiery one, and you come from a long lineage of the fiery ones. It was just like, and then she was like, Mama, you're gonna love living in England in the spring and summer, and you're gonna love working in Egypt and the Mediterranean through the winter. And so she was so specific, she's so specific with me at times. So just having dreams like that, I'm like, okay, like I just have to, even though my human body might have layers of like, oh my God, flying the nest, like I'm not gonna have a home, but having that clarity of communication with her has been, like I said, like my North Star of just really like trusting in the path and where we're supposed to be. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But on the Mediterranean, for years now, I have a program with women called Theoria Sophia. And within that, it's like oracular temple or working with the oracular lines on the planet that also connects to the rose line and the honeybees and living in the garden and finding sanctuary within and all of those things. So I've always envisioned on the Mediterranean creating a sanctuary for women that is a retreat space, a temple space, but then also as a part of that having like a temple spa type of thing so that anyone could experience coming into a sanctuary and getting that new earth kind of codex through the people that work there, through the architecture, through the healers that are there. But we'll see what happens. I'm really open.
It sounds quite clear already. It's like definitely a map of movement. That's amazing. That's like a whole other level. Like That's so beautiful and profound, and I'm very personally happy that you're coming to England. I'm like, thank you to your daughter that she's calling that already. Um, that sounds really profound, and it also it it feels like even when you spoke about this one in the Mediterranean, like he there's something in this that like I know after I started getting shown about this temple that it was because there used to exist a temple of Isis here already, and because this land
Mm,
already held that frequency, and because of the springs, the white and the red, like there's something already in us, and also perhaps past lives that we have been, and we've already been temple priestesses of that space, or guardians, or whatever it might be. So it's so interesting where we're being called again, almost to like resurrect or
mhm,
potentially create anew. But there's something in that that's already like there's this like sense, especially these next 2 years, where we just don't know what's happening. Like there's this sense that we're all taking up position, and so important in relation to these monad couple, these couples that are calling in these higher dimensional like avatar souls, almost like who are cleansing their body so deeply to bring in these higher light souls to help carry this next in
mm.
some ways. So bowing to you and your little one who is coming through to support this in some way.
Yeah.
Um, and really beautiful. Really, really, I'm really excited to see where you end up and what other temples you guys share and birth into the world. Um, and I was gonna say one last thing before we finish around the bees. Is there anything more you want to say around? Because I know you have such a strong connection to the bees and in relation to the bees and building this architecture and the bees just in life and your own journey with them and the rose, I guess, the rose and the bees.
Yeah, thank you for bringing them in. So I'll share for whoever doesn't know, we have a beehive behind our bed. So we built it into like under our altar, and then they have access to it from the outside, and there's a little observation window, and so we get to witness them and their architecture and their way of being. And um, there's so much I could say about the bees that it could become very long-winded, so I'll just be very extracted with it. But I really feel so. I'll just share that the energy of the rose line really started coming into my life. And then there's a Rosicrucian proverb that goes, when the rose blooms, the bees will come. And
Mm,
there's this alchemy of when, you know, a lotus blooming or a rose blooming, it's like when a rose in Sophia's garden is like blooming to the light, blooming to creation, it calls the bees, which the way that I see them, like they are the angels of Sophia, and they come and they
mm,
pollinate us, and
mm,
they open us up, the living ambrosia. So the honeybees, like the DMT in our pineal gland, is like the honey where the serotonin is like the milk. It literally looks like milk and honey, and so
mm,
there's this alchemy that happens within that when the bees come, and that's when they first really showed themselves to me. I actually had a very uh what do you call it, clairaudient, when you can hear
mm,
beyond the veil. I don't typically have experiences like that, but I heard like a beehive in my head. This was years ago, and I could feel them, and it felt like they were
mm,
like reading every like neuron like in my brain.
mm,
And then all of a sudden, they like collectively agreed that I could step back into the mystery of the bees. And they all parted, and I saw this queen bee in my third eye, and I felt this like dripping of the DMT naturally. And this garden of Sophia opened itself up to me. And it was this like heavenly realm of Sophia, of the mother, father, God. And in that, it was like this homecoming of remembering what it means to exist in that frequency of love. And
mm,
so the bees really came to me on that level of showing me like internal alchemy, you know, that in this like internal awakening and this internal blossoming, I started dreaming with them a lot. And so people are known to dream with the bees, and it felt like they were um weaving between me and Sophia, like in the dream time, and that they were sharing messages with me from Sophia and then bringing messages back. It felt like they were like carriers and like bringers of life, because that's really what they do. Like The bees speak to me in poetry a lot. They're very poetic beings. They're very fey in their communication. And what they really brought forth when they started coming in was showing me, like, they would say things to me like, what allowed, and I know different people have different interpretations of Eve and the apple, but I see it as this very beautiful, like, holy experience of coming into the wisdom of Sophia in the womb and, going through the initiation, of going into the underworld like Inanna to be born anew. And so the bees were like, what allowed Eve to even eat the apple? And it was this energy of like the bees came to pollinate the tree of life, to allow the fruit to be eaten by humanity. And so without the bees, we wouldn't have fruit, we wouldn't have food. And so I really see honeybees and pollinators as these bringers of the dawn of humanity, essentially. And so many species are able to exist because of them. And there's nothing else that we need besides the four elements in the way that we need pollinators to be here. So I always see the pollinators and the honeybees as the fifth element. And I just feel like they are the bringers of life. And the way that honeybees are being treated right now, and like the way that the hive is being treated right now, is very similar to how the womb has been treated in the feminine, in the way that the womb has been abused. So they directly reflect to us this, because the beehive is the womb of the land. Like they ensure that the garden can exist. So everywhere that there is a hive, that is a generative womb force of creation, ensuring that there can be fruit and vegetables and all of these things. Like honeybees are responsible for, I think, 70% of the food that we eat on a daily basis, and then there's the rest of the pollinators. So they're kind of at this peak expression of nature, of the importance of that. And so the honeybees create this womb grid all over the whole planet to ensure fertility within the garden. But then that womb grid has been under attack through naivety, through force, through profit, through rape. Like they literally are, a lot of mass beekeepers are literally raping the queen bee to get and force semen into her womb, and that's declining their genetics. So there's all of these ways that the womb of the bee and the seed of the bee is under attack. And so I really saw this inner awakening of my womb wisdom. And then the bees were kind of reflecting that back to me, and like, oh, like as we relate to the bees in this way of really allowing them to be part of the living architecture of the garden, allowing the garden to flourish, and that we can just add beauty instead of take beauty away. It's like plant wildflowers, plant trees, do these things, like be the tenders of the garden. Then, that's what the bees are doing. They are tending the garden of creation. So with me, with the honeybees, whenever I feel like confused or a little bit lost, or if there's so much spiritual information out there, I'm like, what's real, what's this, that, I just like return to the beehive, and I'm like, oh, it's so simple. And you just watch them, and they're just tending creation, they're just tending the garden, they're tending life. And it's like, oh, okay, that's why I'm here. And it can just get that simple over and over and over again. So they are really, yeah, I mean, if I have a guru on this planet, it's the honeybees in the water and the trees and, all of it. But yeah, they're really special. And so they, their honeycomb on an architectural level, it's, each comb has like the flower of life within it, like the hexagon. And then within that, if you look at their honeycomb like as this architectural fabric of the codex of creation, then they go out into the garden and they collect information from these different trees of life and bring it back to this fabric of the womb of the hive of Gaia Sophia, and then they store that information. It's like, it reminds me of priestesses like writing on scrolls. It's like of the mysteries of creation, collecting those scrolls, bringing it to the temple, like storing that information. So the nectar stores, like I love going to new areas, and the first thing I'll get is a little bit of honey. And then I'll taste it because I feel like tasting the nectar of the land is like a key to really unlocking what it means to be, means to like walk with those plant spirits and to, you know, understand the land more. So there's so much I could say about them, but they are master architects. Like they are master crafts women, and um yeah, that's all I'll say. I guess one more thing is that I feel really called to incorporate with these temple structures to create bees as a part of that living architecture. So whether that is, let's say, these pollinator gardens. So our project of Azura, the nonprofit, is to create pollinator habitats for bees and all kinds of pollinators. So it's like replenishing the land in that way, but then to also create living architecture as a part of that. So may it be like pillars, or let's say beautiful pagodas with like the pillars, but then those pillars are open for bees to grow within the pillars, as a part of that living architecture within the garden. So yeah, I'll leave it at that. But there, if no one's deep dived in with the bee, I highly recommend it. There's a lot of wisdom in there. So thanks for bringing me to this.
Thank you. I'm like, I could see, I would love you to keep going and sharing more. It's fascinating because like the depths of wisdom you carry around it is so profound. And
Mm,
I'm really inspired by tasting the honey where you go. Like I think that's such a beautiful idea and makes so much sense. Thank you for sharing that. I'm really excited to see your temples. Like this one, I can't even imagine anything like more epic than what you've created. You know what I mean? So who knows in this moment? True heaven on earth structures, bee structures and home. Um,
thank you.
thank you for your time, my love. Really, really lovely to connect and for you to share your beautiful wisdom and heart and journey as well on this kind of birthing of temples. And for those that are watching, if you want to hear Zefirah and her partner speak more, you're welcome to come to the summit next weekend. You guys will be sharing on a Sunday afternoon. Very excited to go even more deeply into this topic. And feels really special as well, but you'll be sharing together as well. There's something in that feels really beautiful to get to experience from you both. And yeah, thank you so much. I kind of want to do another live view another time in the future. I hope that comes. Maybe when you're in England next time, we should do something.
I'd love to.
Fingers
Yeah.
crossed. Yay. Um, Thank you for your time, my love. And if anyone wants to see your temple and is interested in or might know someone who wants to buy your temple, you're still looking for people to
Yeah,
buy
yeah,
and
we're definitely open. There's some people that are coming in October, a couple of people that are coming to look at it in person. So we'll see what happens, but it's still for sale and available. And you can find more of that information in the link in my bio, Garden of Azura. So yeah, and then um, yeah, never mind. Yep, that's it.
When you think about jewelry, because I forgot to mention your beautiful jewelry line which you just launched, you
Oh
want to share
yeah.
anything on that, which is to do with the bees and the rose. And I feel like there's a lot of sisters who are watching this and who will watch this who'll be interested in your jewelry line as well.
Oh, thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, I created a jewelry line called Amari, and it's something I've always wanted to do because I love architecture, and I also that goes into the clothes and the adornments and the things that we put on our bodies. But as we know, that if we align with creating things or wearing things that's in
Mm,
alignment with what's best for the earth, then that's also what's best for us. And then it really can attune us to living in resonance with the garden, living in resonance with our bodies. Like, what it feels like to have breathable, organic fibers on. It just like, it's a world of difference. So this jewelry is sustainably made, and it's made here in the US. And yeah, and so if anyone wants to see that, you can go to amari.boutique, or there's also the link in my bio with that too. So.
they're very beautiful. people haven't seen it. They're very, very beautiful pieces.
Thank you.
Thank you, my love. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for your presence. Look forward to seeing you next Sunday on Zoom.
Me too.
I'm sending you love and gratitude. Bye.
Bye. Thank you all.
Thank you.